Michael Vick leaving the Philadelphia Eagles and heading over to the Jets, and that relationship with Geno Smith. So, Jay, what do you think about this transition over to the Jets?
Well, I think that Vick is going to be the starter at the beginning of the season here. Geno Smith still needs time to develop. I think the Jets brought Vick over to be the teacher that he needs. I mean, I know it's kind of a stretch. I'm going to say it anyway. I think that they brought Vick in to be the Brett Favre to Geno Rodgers' Aaron Rodgers. So, or Geno Smith's Aaron Rodgers, sorry. Vick's the veteran. The guy's still got something in the tank. He's a huge threat to take off and run the ball, which is the same kind of play style that Geno Smith plays. So that's another reason I think that they're bringing him in to teach. And I think when it comes down to it, Rex Ryan's on the hot seat, and this guy is looking for whatever gives him the best chance to win, and that is absolutely Michael Vick. I mean, we all saw what Geno Smith could do last year, and it wasn't all that much. And the other reason I think that Vick is going to get the starting job to start out here, at least the start of the season, is that we all know how Jets fans are, and I think the minute that Geno Smith throws a pick or does something stupid, they're going to be screaming for Vick, and I don't think they want their future franchise quarterback to go out that way, because the minute that happens, he's pretty much all done in New York. I think with the addition of Chris Johnson and Eric Decker, Vick might actually be able to put up some decent numbers. I think he could produce as a quarterback one as long as he stays healthy, but we all know that could be one game or 5 or 6 games. That just depends on how many times Vick takes off and runs the ball and gets hit by men that are much larger than him. What do you guys think about that one?
Well, I'll go ahead and say it. Favre to Rodgers, really? You went there. You went there. Just so we're all clear, and we all actually heard that. You went from Favre to Rodgers, from Vick to Geno Smith.
Look, man, I'm just making a little bit of a comparison as to what maybe they're going for. I'm not saying that the talent level's there.
All right. Well, okay. Now, honestly, I got to take this debate from the fact that Geno was drafted as a franchise quarterback, right? And he is going to start this season. Vick was brought in basically to kind of be the mentor and kind of say, hey, here's how not to get in dogfights. Whoops. Geno put up historically bad numbers last year. We're talking about absolutely terrible. We're talking almost Sanchez level bad numbers. Only the Jets could draft 2 terrible quarterbacks in such close proximity. He did have a couple flashes of greatness. I will give that to him. I would not be surprised if he, basically F's it up early up in the season and Vick is brought in to run the ship. Quite frankly, Vick will do that. He'll get hurt within 5 games, and it'll go back to Geno's team. But again, we'll see how long this lasts. Rob, thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. I think if Geno was drafted in the second round, if this was a guy who was drafted in the first 10 picks of the first round, I think there'd be a lot of pressure on New York to keep him in there. I think the argument here is basically that Vick was brought in. I think he's going to try to mentor Geno along. I think he's going to actually get the start. And then, as we all know, Vick's probably got a good 8 games if we're lucky. But I think especially if you're, drafting QBs and you're going to flip-flop on QBs and get some guys late, I think Vick can definitely put up some fantasy numbers. We've seen that year and year again as long as he's actually on the field. So I think Geno will come in after him. Again, they have similar styles. It's a good mesh from that perspective, so we'll just kind of have to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Now, do you guys think that if Vick is actually in and starting, what do you guys think about his numbers? Do you think he'll actually produce wide receiver 1 numbers or quarterback 1 numbers, or do you think he's going to be just not somebody you even want to have on your roster?
Yeah, I absolutely think he will. He's shown it year in and year out. With his legs alone, his arm's gotten better seemingly every year to a certain extent. So I think just with that ability alone to run around, he's in a better situation than the Jets as far as their talent level as opposed to last year. Obviously, Philly has a better offense. But when he's in there, he gets the job done. We saw Tim Tebow get in there with a horrible arm and score 20, 25 fantasy points a week. So I think if he's in there and you're streaming quarterbacks, he's a guy that you can definitely start even in a 10-man league as long as he's on the field.
As the Jimmer thinketh, I would just like to point out that if you drafted 2 kickers, I would drop one and get Michael Vick.
All right.
Fair enough. On our next show, we're going to be breaking down and tiering the top 20 fantasy running backs for 2014 and comparing our rankings and tiers to the current ADP from Fantasy Football Calculator. So tune in next 2 weeks from now to see how we match up with their numbers. We'll also be sharing our thoughts on the first round of the NFL draft. So, does Johnny Manziel go to the Browns? Does Clowney end up going over, number 1 to the Texans? Tune in to find out, in the fantasy scenarios from which they find themselves on those teams, the ramifications. We're going to be live every 2 weeks here in the off season moving forward. We're going to go back to once a week here as the season gets closer. So tune in on Friday, May 9th for our next live hangout. In the meantime, check out our previous shows on our YouTube channel, Red Zone Warriors Fantasy Football Show. Like us on Facebook at Red Zone Warriors Fantasy Football Show, and follow and tweet us your fantasy football questions on Twitter at Red Zone Warriors. So for the Cushman, the Jimmer, I am Rob Shiva Winter Smith. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Peace.
I gotta go tinkle.